Members, this is the appointed time and we have a quorum. So I call this meeting to order. This is the Bills Committee on International Organizations, Privileges and Immunities, Amendment Bill 2022, and this is our first meeting. As Chair of the Bills Committee, Ms. Eunice Yong is otherwise engaged and is unable to chair this meeting in accordance with Rule 76(2) of the Rules of Procedure. The Bills Committee, in the absence of the original chair, can elect another member to stand in for her. So, as a member with the highest precedence, I will chair this election process. Nominations from members, please. Ms. Carmen Can. Chairman, I nominate Mr. Ma Fung Kwok as chair of this Bills Committee. Anyone seconds? Mr. Lai Tong Kwok seconds. I will accept the nomination as I've been nominated, and I have also accepted this nomination in accordance with the established election procedure. Dr. Junice Ho, with the highest presidence, should chair the meeting. It will only take 3 minutes. So I'll stand in for chair for this part of the meeting. Do we have any other nominations? I'll count to 3, and then the nomination will be closed. 1, 2, 3. No other nominations. So I declare that Mr. Ma Fung Kwok is returned uncontested as chair of the Bills Committee. Please come forward. Members, we move on to item 2 of the agenda. That is, we meet with the administration. Let's invite the administration to come in. The papers include CB bracket 3760/2022 and also electrical brief IL/IO/2/1 and the Legal Service Division report on the bill LS 70/2022. We also have a marked up version of the bill, that is CB bracket 4989/2022 bracket 01. Let me first of all welcome the administration. Let me go through the attendance list here. From the administration, we have Dr. James Ding, Law Officer, International Law, Mr. Manuel Ng, Senior Assistant Law Draftsman, acting, Mr. David Ng, Assistant Principal Government Counsel, acting, and Mr. Joel Lee, Government Counsel. Members, do we need to hold a public hearing on this bill? No? All right, because as a matter of fact, the bill does not have a significant relation with the with members of the public. So let me first invite the administration to walk us through the bill. Dr. Ding. Thank you, Chairman. This amendment bill strives to amend the International Organizations, Privileges and Immunities Ordinance Cap 558 so that the privileges and immunities of bodies concerned in the establishment of organizations under arrangements signed between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Hong Kong SARG can be implemented in Hong Kong. Before that, under the current ordinance, the CE Council can make certain orders in relation to providing privileges and immunities to international organizations, but the ordinance does not cover arrangements made between the central authorities in the Hong Kong SARG, and therefore the bill is put forward to make an amendment to the ordinance. As members may have heard, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Central People's Government is going to set up a preparatory office of the International Organization for Mediation, which should be granted privileges and immunities. And in order for this to be fulfilled, we need to amend the ordinance, hence the amendment bill. We are going to amend Section 3 of Cap 558 so that apart from international agreement, the bill will also give a legal effect to the provisions of an agreement made between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Hong Kong SARG. Members, let's see if you have any questions. Please raise your hand if you want to ask questions. Ms. Carmen Can. And who else? No? Dr. Junius Ho, Ms. Maggie Chan. So I'll give each member 5 minutes. Thank you, Chair. On the 1st of November, a document was issued by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs stating that there's been a stronger demand for mediation in the international arena, but there is no intergovernmental organization dedicated to mediation among states. Usually, international disputes are resolved through conciliation and mediation, arbitration, and yet they are unable to meet the demand and the increasing demand for mediation for international disputes. In light of the latest development, our country has been drawing up and signing joint statements with states with a similar philosophy. So this bill relates to the establishment of the Preparatory Office of the International Organization for Mediation, so that starting from 2023, the organization can take forward mediation for international disputes. We have very short time frame, so I'd like the DOJ to explain about the bill. And after the bill has been tabled and passed in the Council, may I know more about the preparation work? Will the Department of Justice be taking forward this task under the guidance of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? And according to the same document, in relation to the Preparatory Office of the IOMED, there are 3 advantages of setting up this office in Hong Kong: its geographical location, its business environment, and its mature legal system, especially unique advantages in the areas of mediation. So, as we support the country in completing this important mission, may I know more about the resources for the Department of Justice? Who will take this question? Thank you, member, for the questions. About implementation, our target is that the Preparatory Office can commence operation early 2023. We expect the bill to be read for the 3rd time and be passed before recess, and then after that, the Chief Executive in Council should give approval for the Preparatory Office to commence operation. DOJ personnel will be deployed to the office together with personnel seconded from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to provide guidance, because any settlement will be undertaken by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. As far as resources are concerned, we will be providing a preparatory office, and that means a legal hub, and we will also be providing resources and manpower to support this office. Any follow-up question? Next, Dr. Junice Ho. Thank you, Chairman. I'm very curious about this amendment bill. I seek your enlightenment. Perhaps I will be asking rather elementary questions. But I think if we're able to set up this international organization providing intergovernmental cooperation to resolve disputes between governments or international disputes, this organization will provide friendly, flexible, economical, and efficient mediation services for international disputes. So I support that. The bill seeks to provide privileges and immunities to this new organization. Can you tell us more about the duties or the rights and obligations of the preparatory office? Has it to do with disputes at the government level or commercial and civil disputes as well, and that it will provide a platform for mediation? According to Cap 558, I understand that privileges and immunities will be provided to the organization. That's on the level of a consulate generals, for example. But what about the binding effect on, say, different governments, different international organizations? Now, let me clarify that this is not so much about the International Organization for Mediation. This is about the preparatory office of this organization. As for our next step, a convention will be drawn up after discussion by different states, and it will be prepared by this preparatory office. This is an intergovernmental organization. It doesn't involve civil parties. Now, what about the parties involved? Is it the government to government level, or is it otherwise? It depends on the negotiation process. Privileges will have to be provided for parties of mediation, as say some documents will enjoy and will be confidential, and we also need to grant privileges and immunities to the personnel concerned to facilitate the negotiation. So it is still unknown, as further negotiation is needed between the parties, right? So my next question is this. Are we the facilitator in providing this preparatory office? So we're helping out with preparation. Can you tell us more about the privileges to be provided? For privileges and immunities, they are similar to those offered to international organizations. For example, no entry to the office area. The documents will be subject to confidential arrangements, and the what's said in the negotiation process by the state's representatives will also be kept confidential, and also say if outside parties are involved, they will enjoy these immunities, privileges as well. Right, understood. Thank you, Chairman. Next, Ms. Maggie Chan. Thank you, Chairman. International Organization for Mediation will eventually be established in Hong Kong, and I strongly support that. And I thank the central authorities for the support for establishing Hong Kong as a center for international dispute resolution. Now, we're talking about the preparatory office. Then by the time when the International Organization for Mediation is established, will Hong Kong be responsible for providing the necessary resources and the office? Or will there be another arrangement? Well, it's state affairs, but after all, may I know whether or what personnel will be deployed to this organization and whether mediation professionals in Hong Kong will have a part to play in the process. Another question is this about the International Organization for Mediation. Since we also have mediation centers in Hong Kong and media professionals, will there be collaboration?
Thank you for your questions. First of all, about resources. Well, for the preparatory office, actually our government will be providing a place for the office, and then we will have to look at what the negotiation will be. The member states, they will have to make contributions, etc. As for the staff, there will also be negotiations about them. So for the preparatory office, we may not have personnel from other countries because this is just the preparatory stage. But at the next stage, there may be personnel from other states. Well, so we will have to start the negotiation first, and then we can decide further. As for people involved, of course, there will be Hong Kong people and other people involved in the negotiation. There will be personnel from the Department of Justice. I think a lot of opportunities will be brought to Hong Kong. Some mediation cases will be brought to Hong Kong. As for talent training, the IOMAT hasn't started its work yet, so it's hard for us to say what cases will there be. But I'm sure the IOMAT will also focus a lot on talent training. So this would really help Hong Kong. Next, I'll ask my questions. I have two questions. First, for this amendment, as far as I understand, yes, we have a very short time frame. And as we want to establish the IOMAT, so we really need to do our preparatory work fast. But for the amendment, it's not just about the IOMAT. In the future, there may be similar organizations, and with this amended ordinance, the future organizations will also be enjoying the same privileges and immunities. And we're talking about international organizations. Do we have a definition for international organization? It explains here that there should be a convention first. Now we do not have the convention. So this is question number one. And secondly, immunities will be granted to the IOMAT. So are the immunities applicable to diplomats or people hired by the international organization? If they are hired by the international organization, should they be of a certain level before they can enjoy the immunities? Thank you, Chairman, for your questions. First, definition of international organization. Well, in the interpretation of the bill, you can see the definition. It must be an international organization established under an international convention. Now we have signed an agreement with the MFA. The preparatory office itself is not an international organization. It's preparing for an international organization. So that is a difference. So that's why we have to amend the ordinance. And now we are using the wording that it is a body concerned in the establishment of international organization. So that's why we have to make this amendment. As for questions concerning privileges and immunities, we really have to look at the relevant international convention. And we would also have to look at the arrangements with the MFA. This is not the say of the SARG. Well, the MFA would decide as to what privileges and immunities will be granted. So we will have to look at the relevant arrangements. Just now I answered Mr. Ho's questions. For the ordinary privileges and immunities, for example, the documents can be kept confidential, their office will be protected, and there will be tax exemptions, etc. So these are the ordinary privileges and immunities, and I'm sure they will also be granted. There is one thing that I'm not clear. Now, this is about preparation work. I don't know what type of staff will be enjoying such diplomatic immunities. Oh, you are saying that the MFA would make this decision and then the SALG would implement. But I think there are some criteria. As far as you understand, can you explain to us more about such immunities and privileges? Well, the SALG and the MFA has entered into an arrangement, and all these privileges and immunities are set out in the arrangement document, but this is confidential, so I am not disclosing them here. Well, for the next step, the CE in Council will be making orders, and the order will set out the privileges and immunities. Well, there you will see the privileges and immunities. For example, when people come to Hong Kong for conferences, they can enjoy certain privileges regarding their speeches. Well, in the next stage, the CE in Council will be making orders, and in the order, the relevant privileges and immunities will be set out clearly. I would like to follow up. Now, if the bill is passed and the IOMAT is set up and it starts to operate officially, so there will be a lot of staff involved. So when they enjoy their privileges and immunities, are we talking about a certain rank? They're not diplomats. So how about the people the IOMAT that is going to employ? Well, after the IOMAT is officially established, there will be a new international convention. That is the IOMAT convention. So in the convention, it will set up very clearly as to who will be enjoying the privileges and immunities. So this all rely on the negotiation. Maybe the immunities and privileges are for certain ranks. So the negotiations will decide on those. But all this would be set out very clearly in the convention. Okay, I have asked all my questions. Members, you have other follow-up questions? No? If members have no other questions, let's move on to the clause-by-clause examination. Members, I hope you can refer to the text of the bill, CB bracket 4, 989, 2022. That is the marked up copy. The marked up copy is prepared by the LSD. Well, the administration, can you take us through the scrutiny? Yes, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. Well, for the amendments, let us look at the long title first. We will add a phrase that is, and the privileges and immunities of bodies concerned in the establishment of international organizations of persons connected with such bodies, etc. This is newly added to clause 3. So this is the first amendment. That is, under this ordinance, other than international organizations and conventions, they would also include other bodies as settled in the amendment. Any questions concerning this amendment? Please go on. And for clauses 1 and 2, no amendments. For clause 3, the most important amendment. Well, for this amendment, originally it only includes international agreements, and now we are adding other wordings, and also it covers the privileges, immunities of bodies concerned the establishment of international organizations of persons connected with such bodies and the arrangements between the MFA and the Central People's Government and the Hong Kong SARG. So for the original paragraph A, now it becomes A1 and 2. For A1 is similar to the original A, but now we have added 2. That is an arrangement in writing that's entered into between the MFA, etc. So this would affect B. We have included agreements or arrangements. Any other questions concerning the text? No? Please go on. And there are no other amendments. Legal advisor, how about the English version? Please go on. Oh, it's done? Yes, no other amendments. Then let's look at the English version. As for the English version, it's like what I said just now. For a long title, we have added 1 paragraph. And the privileges and immunities of bodies. 呢個呢，就係與任何牽涉國際組織嘅成立嘅機構，以及與該等機構相關的人，在中央人民政府外交部與香港特別行政區政府之間的安排下的特權及豁免權。So we have added this phrase in order to reflect the amendment. Any other questions? And then for the English version of Clause 3, international agreement extended to include certain agreements and arrangements. This is a change to the heading. And then for A2, we have added an arrangement in writing that is entered into between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the government of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region relating to the status, privileges, immunities of all concerned in the establishment of an international organization of persons connected with such a body. So this is the part that we have added. We have some textual changes as well. That is, after agreement, we add or arrangement. Ms. Carmen Can, the legal advisor has asked a question concerning A3A2. That is whether as amended from time to time should be added with regard to the arrangement. So for when international agreement is mentioned, it would add as amended from time to time. So should this also be added here? Thank you for your question. Well, this is a temporary arrangement, a transitional arrangement, because it's for a preparatory office. So we do not see the need to add as amended from time to time in this amendment. So it's not like international agreements that we use that phrase. I think in 6 months to a year time, the negotiation will be concluded, and then there will be a new convention. And if there is really such a need for such an amendment, we can cite a new arrangement with the MFA, so we don't need to add the phrase as amended from time to time. So that is different from the wording for international conventions or agreements. I would like to follow up on Ms. Kan's questions. Now, for the arrangements or agreements with the MFA in the future, if the environment changes and then when there are changes and words have to be changed, then those new wording would be gazetted again, right? Yes, that is one possibility. Are there other possibilities? No, of course, we have to look at what the change is. Does the change involve privileges and immunities? If it does not, then we may not need to reflect it under this ordinance. Now, Is this a subsidiary legislation and is subject to negative vetting electrical? Yes, this is a subsidiary legislation and is subject to negative vetting. And if that is the case, what is the commencement date? So you have to go through the negative vetting procedure first.
盡快申
Well, we want it to be given effect as quickly as possible. We're discussing with the MFA whether it is possible to for it to take effect right after Gazettal. Any other questions? We have no more follow-up questions to ask, so I suppose we have completed the clause-by-clause scrutiny. And I don't think we need another meeting for this bill. The other point is, and this is a question for the administration, let's say if we have completed the scrutiny work, when does the government intend to resume second reading of the bill? As quickly as possible. We'll strive to resume the second reading of the bill before the recess, and the earliest date, as I read it, is the 7th of December. So in other words, Chair of the Bills Committee will report to the House Committee on the deliberation of Bills Committee, and the written report will then be submitted. Members, if you have any amendment to move to the bill, the deadline for giving notice is the 28th of November. Any questions on the arrangement? If not, then that concludes the work of the Bills Committee. Thank you.